So after last weekend's homily, I heard from a few people, actually heard positive comments from a few people, which was nice. And one of which, a dear friend of mine, sent an email that included something that has really helped her in the midst of this society of contempt that we find ourselves in, especially the closer we get to this upcoming election. And so she shared that with me, and I read, it was a book that she had recently listened to in audiobook form called Love Your Neighbors by Arthur Brooks. And so I went online right away, as we're wont to do now these days, right? Just go and see what YouTube has to offer on this book. So I saw some interviews, one of which was conducted by PBS, one of which was conducted by Bishop Robert Barron, had Arthur Brooks as a guest speaker on his program. And I really liked what I saw. Like, wow, this is saying what I was trying to say last week a lot more eloquently. But he spent a couple of years writing the book. So, okay, give me a break, all right? I was just preparing one homily. But it was interesting. So it led me to download the audiobook. And at some point this week, I was sitting in my office, my home office now. Actually, I don't know if you guys heard, but one of our staff members was tested positive for COVID, so we're really trying to be safe in the office once again. And so, anyway, I was there in my home office, and I noticed a book that was on my yet to read pile. Love Your Enemies. One of you gave it to me about a month ago. So I apologize, because I went home and I stuck it on the yet to read stack, okay? And I was just in my house, and I was like, wait, what's that book say? I'm like, oh, Love Your Enemies from Arthur Brooks. How Decent People Can Save America from the Culture of Contempt. Yeah, that's the book that I heard about this week. So I'm not sure who handed. Anybody want to take credit for handing this to me? Anyone? Yeah, no, I don't remember who gave it to me, so they're obviously not going to get it back. So unless they let me know. If you're out there, if you let me know, and you know who you are, be honest about it, okay? So I just want to read, I haven't had a chance to dive into it yet, but I think just reading from the jacket cover, if you would allow me to do that, give you a little taste of what Arthur Brooks does and how badly we need it and how it connects to our gospel passage this weekend. In Love Your Enemies, Arthur Brooks shows that abuse and outrage are not the right formula for lasting success. Brooks blends cutting-edge behavioral research, ancient wisdom, and a decade of experience leading one of America's top policy think tanks in a work that offers a better way to lead based on bridging divides and mending relationships. Brooks's prescriptions are unconventional. To bring America together, we shouldn't try to agree more. There is no need for mushy moderation, because disagreement is the secret to excellence. Civility and tolerance shouldn't be our goals. So forget what I said last week. Because they are hopelessly low standards. And our feelings toward our foes are irrelevant. What matters is how we choose to act. Let me read that again. What matters is how we choose to act. Love your enemies offers a clear strategy for victory for a new generation of leaders. It is a rallying cry for people hungry for a new era of American progress. Most of all, it is a roadmap to find the happiness that comes when we choose to love one another, despite our differences. So, we just might save Thanksgiving after all. We hear in the gospel today, Jesus lay out for us that the second is just like the first. After we first love God with our whole entire being, and we are also called to love our neighbor as ourselves. This is Matthew's version. Luke's version is almost identical to it up to that point, but then Luke offers another little tidbit by having the gentleman say, oh yeah, and by the way, who is my neighbor? And then we all know where he goes with that, right? He ends up laying out for us the story of the Good Samaritan. So he basically lays out for us that our neighbor, we're called to love our neighbor who can be our enemy, right? And so we are called to love our enemies as we love ourselves. That's radical. It's hard, but it is the gospel. And that's what we're called to. One of the stories that I saw in one of the interviews that Arthur Brooks tells is that one of his previous books that he spent 2 years researching and putting this together and trying his best to edit it over and over again, he published it, and he heard from somebody through email, sent him an email that just really raked him over the coals, said it was awful writing, it was awful research, it was yada, yada, yada. He just ripped it to shreds. And he said it was about 5,000 words worth of email. And he said he just painfully read through all of that. But he said he realized what was really stirring inside of him as he read it is that as he read the email, it's like, this guy read my book. And he was really happy about it. So he sent an email back to this individual saying, he said, I poured myself into this work for the last 2 years. And it is evident to me that you read my book. So thank you. Thank you very much. Send. And he said, well, that's the last time I'll hear from that person. He said it was remarkable. He heard back from the person really quickly. He said it was like an almost immediate turnaround. The guy said, if you ever find yourself in this area of the country, I'd love to have lunch with you. And that's what started him on this road. It's not how we feel, but it's how we choose to act is really where the rubber meets the road for us. I don't know about you, but I will have plenty of opportunities this week to exercise this. Whenever you find yourself talking about the politics, what he encouraged people to do is to look for the common ground. Don't change your, don't try to worry about changing the other, et cetera, but recognize that Republicans, they don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to try my very best today to be a horrible human being. And Democrats don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to try my very best today to be a horrible human being. And so therefore I'm going to ascribe to this or this. No. We're all Americans who desire what's best. And that can lead to difference of opinion. But where we have to come back to is trying to get rid of the contempt, the anger, the dislike of the other. We can recognize that we can think differently, and then we choose to act with love. That's going to be the hard part. But that's what Jesus calls us to. And so, how do we go ahead and act with love? Well, guess what? We're going to receive a great act of love ourselves today. Right here, in this church. From that table, we're going to be fed with love itself. We will receive from that greatest act of love the world has ever seen. The sacrifice of God's only Son, who suffered hatred and evil and maliciousness and conquered it. The great act of love. We'll be reminded of that up here on this altar. And then we'll be offered to receive love itself. So that we can feel smug and feel better than the others that don't get to receive that? No, lest I have to remind you of that again. It's not so that we can walk out of here feeling smug, or that, yeah, we're better than those that don't feel the way we do or think the way we do. No. We receive and walk out of here so that we can represent, so that we can bring that love to others. So, when we find ourselves in one of those challenging conversations this week, stop. Arthur Brooks says, stop. And choose to act. Choose to respond with love. When we recognize that we are carrying the source of love with us as we leave here today, that's really all we'll need.